समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
India's big strategic reset with the Taliban. The Taliban foreign minister is in India on an 8-day visit, continues to make waves and headlines and triggers debates. The foreign minister's visit is a clear message to both Pakistan and Donald Trump. This at a time when Trump's man for India, Sergio Gore, also his man for all of South and Central Asia, has arrived in Delhi. The visit of the Taliban foreign minister has not been without controversy. Even as he received a hero's welcome at Deoband, women journalists have raised questions about why they were not invited for his press conference and why their male colleagues didn't even open their mouths to ask the Taliban a question about this. But later, at a think tank, Vivekanand Foundation's meetup with the Taliban foreign minister, women were seen in the audience. So is this about jurisdiction or is this about something else? There's a lot to talk about because remember, Pakistan is facing a turmoil of its own, with the TTP on the one hand and the TLP marching towards Islamabad over Gaza on the other. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. I want to bring in now Ambassador Veena Sikri. I want to bring in Ambassador Sikri because while there has been a lot of anger over the fact that women journalists were not invited to the press conference in Delhi that took place at the Afghanistan embassy, you were among the women who were at the Vivekanand Foundation, like General Sharma, if we can show those pictures as well. And of course, this was outside the jurisdiction of the Afghan embassy, so the Taliban had no say over who should be called and who should attend and who should not. I want you to comment on the big import from this trip so far.
But I think on your show, I think it's a very important visit. It is a reset, and I think it's in keeping with the interests of India and Afghanistan. And I think that the way in which Foreign Minister Mutaki has been very open in his discussions, you showed the clip just now about his warning to Pakistan that don't mess around with Afghanistan, and also the way in which he has been addressing audiences. You're showing the clip of VIF. It was a very interesting address and he was very open about it. I think as far as the press conference is concerned, it is very clear that it is unacceptable for the women journalists having been left out. There is no way that we can accept that in any way. But this was an event arranged entirely by the visiting delegation with the Government of India, with the Ministry of External Affairs, having nothing to do with it because it was arranged within their embassy. They now have the Afghan embassy building with them, and we know from our practice with all other embassies who are based in Delhi that there's no interference at all of the kind of functions or who they invite when they're having it within their premises. So this was something that they had planned on their own. I understand that it was the Afghanistan consulate in Bombay that had chosen which journalists to invite, and of course there was a complete furor. But we do know, for example, in our relations with Saudi Arabia and many other countries, that in that sense, when a country has a certain policy of its own, then at some point the Government of India does not interfere with that and develops the relations on the areas in which we can talk to them clearly and openly. And we do know, for example, in Saudi Arabia that the new leader, MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, is doing his best to change the old practices and is putting forward a very different approach to women's issues. And we certainly hope that with the big push being given by the government of Saudi Arabia, this will move to all other countries as well. Having said that, I think we must come back to the bilateral discussions. They were very significant, very important. The government of India is now going to upgrade its mission in Kabul. There will be an embassy there. There will be a charge d'affaires there. Mr. Mutaki, the foreign minister of Afghanistan, has said he's going to have very soon high-level diplomatic representation in India and perhaps even an ambassador very soon. I think from the discussions, it is very clear that they are important points on which India and Afghanistan share, similar views. Counter-terrorism is one of them. We do know that the government of Afghanistan had come out very strongly against the terrorist attack on the innocent tourists in Pahalgam. And this has been referred to by the Foreign Minister Mutaki himself and by others also on that. And we have decided to continue our cooperation on counterterrorism. It will go. And he spoke clearly that within Afghanistan, they are able to control the situation and the law and order is much better, he says. And he invited delegations to go there and visit, in fact. He spoke, and this is a very important point, that the people-to-people links between India and Afghanistan really do go back millennia, and that feeling is so strong, and they really welcome India's humanitarian aid. When they had the recent earthquake, we were the first off the mark to give them family tents and food and medicines and blankets and other clothing and warm material, and that they really value. The Salma Friendship Dam is an outstanding example of friendly cooperation. And also now, even in the talks and the outcome of the talks, it has been decided to continue the stalled projects, because after 2021, the projects had been stalled, and it's only in 2022 that we started a technical mission there, which has been trying to monitor the aid and make sure it gets to the right place. But now we will have a bigger mission, and the stalled projects, bilateral projects between India and Afghanistan will be restarted. An oncology center will be set up, a 30-bedded hospital will be set up, and on training and education, there's a great deal of interest from Afghanistan that India continues its help. We do know that even during these 4 years, we have allowed the Afghan students to do online education. You can register for online.
So, ma'am, you've given us an overview. I want to pick up things one by one and also then open it up. As I mentioned, you were able to be present at that interaction, as was General Sharma. Listen to the Taliban foreign minister as he spoke, even invoking Rabindranath Tagore. But you said that when it came, and let's deal with that first, and then we can get into the geopolitics. You said, as far as no women at the press conference, no women being invited to the press conference by Mutaki is concerned, the MEA has said we had no role, and you agree with that. There have been arguments that the MEA could have perhaps nudged the Taliban delegation to hold their press event outside of the embassy, because as you can see, when all of you met at the VIF, they had no jurisdiction over who could come, whether women could come or not come. They would have to adhere to the laws of India, which have equality between men and women. Do you believe that therefore there was this could have been planned better? The Afghans could have been nudged into not holding this press conference at their embassy. There was also an image of Mutaki sitting under a photograph of the Bamiyan Buddhas that no longer exists. Now, I understand the realpolitik. I understand the hard security concerns. I understand why India is engaging the Taliban. I'm merely asking, we all know this engagement will come with challenges, because there is a difference in values, there's a difference in how we think. Could this have been nudged in a different direction? I'm talking about specifically right now about the women journalists issue.
Quite honestly, I am quite sure, knowing how Ministry of External Affairs arranges the visits, they would have explained everything to the Taliban delegation, who would have come beforehand or even after they arrived. Certainly and they know very well that India is such a dynamic, robust economy, and gender equality, gender empowerment is very important for us. We live it day to day, and there are so many programs of the government that, the direct benefit transfer, the Ujjwal scheme, there's so many which have really improved the lives of women in India, regardless of which community, which religion, which part of India, and those things are visible. So the Taliban delegation would have been fully aware, and the protocol people from the Ministry of External Affairs would have explained everything to them clearly. But it was their independent decision, after receiving all the advice from the Government of India, from the protocol of the Ministry of External Affairs. It was their decision to hold this press conference within the embassy, and who they invited was in their own hands. As I said, I believe it was done through the Consulate General of Afghanistan in Mumbai, which has been functioning all this while. And they decided, maybe I would say that even if a few lady journalists would have been invited, maybe Mr. Mutaki would not have objected. if if
I
if
mean,
they had.
he seemed to have been interacting with the women he met at the Vivekanand Foundation. You were among them. There is also another image that's been released of him being interviewed by a TRT world journalist. Who's not even wearing some hijab or anything. She's dressing as she naturally does. There you can see that image. So there is this conversation going on. Padma, I want to bring you in and then come to General Sharma. Quickly on the point of the women being excluded, you heard what Ambassador Sikri said. It was not in the MEA's hand. It was not in the MEA's jurisdiction. The event was taking place within the Afghan embassy, recently recognized now once again, because we are also opening our embassy in Kabul. So how do you see it? I know you've made the point on our platform that the male colleagues should have spoken up, but beyond this, are we, as some are saying, losing sight of the realpolitik here? Are we losing sight of the purpose of this visit, which is really a message both to Pakistan and to the Trump administration? Or are we entitled as women, as Indians, to be very annoyed that this should happen in our own country?
Hi, good evening. I completely agree. I mean, we've been discussing this ad nauseum since yesterday. And of course, we know as seasoned journalists, we're aware that embassies are, not technically speaking, belong to the country that they represent. Now, there's an interesting point about the women being excluded. Yes, and yes, you are right. My singular point is, I mean, both of us have discussed the realpolitik, and we've actually welcomed the move to meet with the Taliban. This is engaging in some serious geostrategic, policy going forward. And I think that it's a very welcome move. There's no doubt about that at all. What it does serve, though, I find as the days go by and as the Afghan minister begins to visibly enjoy his stay here, I think what is happening is that this issue has highlighted just how many more fault lines there will be and we will encounter along the way. The issue of the women not being invited yesterday. Now, I just wanted to point out something very quickly. I know I'm absolutely perfectly aware that the MEA cannot have been involved in the planning of this press conference, which was in the Afghan embassy. But I want to quote an Indian Express report that quotes some unnamed staffers of the Afghan embassy. And they say that the told the paper that the MEA was in the know about the press conference. I'm reading from the article. The Afghan staff themselves, the people who were against the press conference being held because they obviously belong to the former government, watched the press conference on their phones from a room in the embassy. And now comes the quote. We knew they would do this, and they're referring also to the fact that the women were kept out, and apparently there was a small tabletop flag of the Taliban, which we all saw, etc. So the quote, we knew they would do this, and this is why we had told our CDA, the charge d'affaires, who apparently is now also in charge of Delhi and was it earlier in Hyderabad, that we are ready to organize their press conference at a 5-star hotel, said the staffer. But some staffers said, and here it comes, the MEA leaned on the CDA to allow the Taliban delegation to hold the press conference at the embassy. Now, I don't know what this MEA leaning on the CDA means. It probably means they just left it to the CDA. So I'm perfectly happy to accept that the MEA had nothing to do with the guest list. And also I really doubt whether it could have been the Afghan embassy in Mumbai. That sounds Afghan consulate in Mumbai, because generally everybody I saw at that press conference were beat reporters, who were on the MEA beat. So Afghan consulate in Mumbai, I don't know how this information came to ma'am, but I would suspect that this was an excuse given perhaps by
let Ambassador Sikri respond briefly, because General Sharma has been waiting patiently. Ambassador Sikri, ma'am. Yeah.
Because there's no way that the consulate could have had access
let us speak. Could we unmute to Ambassador Sikri, ma'am, please?
So far, they have not had anybody in position in Delhi. That building, that Afghan embassy building, this was always a big problem, because, even the UN recognizes the earlier flag of Afghanistan and not the Taliban flag of Afghanistan. So even the Afghan embassy, once it was closed down, it was not handed over to this, as far as I know. And that is why it was organized from outside. As you said, they had somebody in Hyderabad, somebody in Mumbai. But that is why, I think that is what I understand. And that's also come in some press reports today as well.
Okay. General Sharma, let's bring you in. I think my own guess, and I'm only guessing here, is that as part of the strategic reset, the MEA would have wanted the embassy to be used. That's my sense. Nobody has said this to me. This is my interpretation, Padma, to your point that, what does it mean to the MEA? So I think the MEA would have possibly encouraged the idea of the press briefing in the Afghan embassy because it's part of the signaling of the reset, and then said we don't have, invite who you want to, and then the Taliban doesn't invite women, right? Now, General Sharma, I think Padma is right that we all know what the Taliban's record is on women. None of us should be so shocked that this has happened. But I think what it points to is the challenges that will come in our re-engagement, because there is a fundamental dissonance between how we think as a country and how the Taliban-led Afghanistan thinks today, and that is par for the course in the world today. We have dealt previously with the Saudis who did not allow women to drive, who wanted women to be covered head to toe before they went out. So we understand. We are hard-nosed people who understand that, shared values diplomacy is probably for the textbooks for the world we live in. But how do you respond to everything that's happened? Could it have been handled differently?
Thank you, Barkha, for inviting me. I am lone in today's audience. I am the alone fellow, right?
Yeah. I was going to say you were also there.
This is also
correct.
Significant.
Yes.
Okay. Let me put it this way. It would have taken the diplomats 4 years to organize this. 4 years ago, when Taliban was coming into the helm of affairs, whoever thought that Pakistan will break away with Taliban, they were celebrating Taliban coming over and taking over the governance and Americans moving out, all that thing. In 4 years of effort, it's not one day of things. You see, kind of wheat we supplied, it's kind of work we have done over a very long period of time. So let's say, give a pat on the back of the people who managed behind the scenes this 4 years of which brought us to this situation today. And I think they need salutations here. So that. Second point is that the visit was absolutely a success. Many of us who heard his speech, there was warmth in this. There was, there was a relationship being built across in the speech which he heard in Vivekanand Foundation. It wasn't a casual speech by any foreign minister. We keep hearing so many of them coming across here in Delhi. So there is something very positive happening here. Let's recognize it. My third point is, look, we all know, see, with the best of governments, it's very easy for having diplomacy and relationship. It's the worst of governments which are inimical to you. You develop relationships. You have relationship with Myanmar, whom you don't even know which is the government in chair today. There are so many groups there. You are interacting with each one of them. Each one is killing the other people. So you're still having relationships there. So this is a very nasty world. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You're talking to communist on one hand, in Nepal you're also talking to the Nepali Congress on the other hand. So it's a very difficult word. I'll add to your question specifically. I think whatever has happened, one doesn't know. I take it what the Ambassador Sikri was saying and what Padma has been saying is right, that it was organized in the embassy, but it could have been organized in a hotel. All those ifs and buts, I understand. Do we need to pontificate? I mean, why are we lecturing another country?
Because it happened in our country. If this was happening in Afghanistan, we would not have the same response. It happened with our colleagues. It happened with our fraternity. I would be very upset if I went to cover a story. I'll tell you, sir, I'll respond as a woman journalist. Firstly, I want to be the best as a professional. If I'm denied the right to cover a story, I'll be damn angry.
Don't be. Take it easy.
Why? But क्यों? बताओ क्यों?
I'll tell you. Firstly, Afghan embassy is Afghanistan territory.
Agreed.
To do it in Afghan embassy, if they have functions and parties and annual days, they call whom they want to call. We can't force a country to call somebody A, B, C, or D. That's one part. Rightly, they should have called women journalists. It is right here. But if they haven't called, we are still done a 4 days, 5 days trip, including to Deoband, and so many things. Are we wanting to spoil the work done over a long period of time of 5 years by taking up issue and now filling the social media saying all has gone bad and look, they didn't call women? At least clutch on the straws of the positives today. We can work on the negatives. Next time we come, we saw women officers, ambassadors, and academics interacting with the foreign minister in VIF. There was just no
No,
the
I
issue of
agree.
Pakistan.
I agree, and I
It is
flagged
an
that.
Afghan. It's an
We can
Afghan
show this.
problem.
Yeah. Okay.
It's an
Okay.
Afghan problem. It is not an Indian problem. And no, we should not actually get into a situation where we are taking ourselves 2 years backwards and behind the scene because an event has happened which we haven't liked.
Okay. I think one important point that General Sharma makes, and I'm going to take two very quick last responses on this issue from Padma and Ambassador Sikri, because I think General Sharma is right. There is a lot of other things to talk about, and we are not talking about those things, right? Of course, as women, we feel that this is happening in our country, even though, of course, technically the embassy is the territory of Afghanistan. So, Padma, quick response there. Ambassador Sikri, quick response there, and let's move on to some other dimensions of this trip.
Very quick response. I just want to explain to ma'am and to the general how, and you know this, how the MEA beat works. There are people known as beat reporters who cover and specialize in a certain section of reportage. These beat reporters who cover the MEA beat are usually the ones, not usually, almost always the ones on the regular mailing list or the press list of all embassies. Ma'am would know this. Now, yesterday in the Indian Express report, one Mr. Syed Mohammed Ibrahim Khil, who was the Afghan Consul General in Hyderabad, is supposedly now the charge d'affaires at the Afghan embassy in Delhi. So the embassy is still operating apparently in a sort of half-hearted way under the old flag and the old stationery and everything of the Republic of Afghanistan. I assume also, not assume, it was very obvious when we saw the press conference, the very same mailing list. So it could not have come from Mumbai or anywhere else. Second thing is that our annoyance, General Sharma, is not at what is happening in terms of the political moves. We have said that ad nauseum, not at all. I'm in complete agreement with you. Our annoyance and our consternation was with our own colleagues. Everybody at that press conference, we recognized each and every one of them, that they are journalists. Forget about being men and didn't, stand up for us women journalists, that they are journalists. And while they could ask the Taliban questions about the state of women in Afghanistan, which, is a fair enough question, they knew very well that there were no women there, regular women reporters on the MEA beat whom they see every day at every such press conference, who were missing. And I'm sure, as Barkha knows and I know, when you're in such a press conference where you are invited and others are not invited, it is usually courtesy and good manners to be in touch with them either via SMS or WhatsApp, and we help each other. And they perfectly well knew that their colleagues were either waiting outside and not been invited. Not one of them raised the question to the visitor himself. That is our consternation, not about the overall bilateral move of inviting the Afghans. I think it's a very, very good move, and geostrategically we're right on top.
And Ambassador Sikri, a closing thought on this aspect, because let's look at the other aspects.
Yes. Well, I agree we should move on to the other aspects, but very briefly, I agree with what General Sharma has said. He's absolutely right, and that we were absolutely correct in the way it has been conducted. I agree with what Padma has said very rightly, that it's up to the male journalists there who should have been much more proactive, or at least pointing out, the beat list of the MEA is a very important list. It's a critical list, and certainly the MEA would have handed over the beat list to the whoever was handling it from the Afghan side. They would have told them definitely, because if this was being held in a 5-star hotel, the MEA would themselves have invited the entire group from the beat reporters list to that press conference. So that is absolutely right. I have my own group, my South Asia Women's Network, which covers Afghanistan as well, and we have been very upset at the treatment of women in Afghanistan, and we've been registering our protest on that. And in that sense, we sympathize fully. But an important point that we make in dealing with women's issues in South Asia is the need to bring men on board. And it's not a fight with men, but unless men are sympathetic to this cause of women's empowerment and women's equality, nothing is going to happen. So this is a very important point. And one very important issue, all the mass media communications institutions in India, throughout India, they don't teach gender sensitivity at all.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think Master Sikri just got frozen there. General Sharma, you wanted to add a comment there? General Sharma? Can't hear General Sharma. General Sharma, can we unmute General Sharma? Yeah.
So just 30 seconds. You see the advertisement that starts off this program that we hold in the evening. This
Yes,
morning.
yes, yes, yes.
Franklin Templeton.
Franklin Templeton, yes.
So you see the advertisement where the boy is not able to understand the mom in mom's voice. So you
That's right.
understand the mom in the man's voice.
That's
India.
right. Well said. Well said. And let me, on this topic of the trip, give the final comment to somebody in our audience who happens to be a man. Prasad saying, Barkha, the Afghans are at a loss by not inviting the finest of Indian journalists yesterday. Let us not forget that India has had female journalists report from the front lines of India-Pakistan wars from the 1960s. I particularly wanted to read out that comment because my mother reported the 1965 India-Pakistan war and was India's first woman war correspondent. So that comment really touched me. I want to, Ambassador Sikri is back with us. Ma'am, you were making the point about no gender sensitization, and that point is absolutely well taken. And I think we've all expressed ourselves fully, our disappointment and our angst and our frustration on this subject. Let's zoom out now to the geostrategic flex here, because it is a flex, right? There is a flex here because look what's happening in Pakistan. In Pakistan, Pakistan's soldiers are coming under attack from the TTP. They try and bomb Kabul on the day that Muttaqi comes here, miss their target. An Afghan media owner said to me, Pakistan attempted to do an Israel and failed, right? So that's one part. And then you have the TLP marching in the thousands to Islamabad to protest Pakistan's support for Trump's Gaza plan. And the TLP is saying that 11 of their workers have been killed. So Pakistan, there are riots in Lahore. So, on the one hand, this is what Pakistan is going through. And on the other hand, you have the Taliban foreign minister here getting a hero's welcome at Deoband, which, as I said in the opening of the program, to me is a big message also on Pakistan's belief on the two-nation theory. I want to play out, before we take the next round of comments, what Muttaqi has said on the Bagram base, which Trump has been so keen to reclaim. Take a look at this comment.
अच्छा, बागराम के बारे हम ये कहता है कि अफगानिस्तान के तारीख गवाह है कि अफगानिस्तान में कभी भी कोई खारिजी जो मिलिट्री है वो वहाँ पे लोग कबूल नहीं किया है, इससे बाद भी कबूल नहीं करता है। तो ये हमारा फैसला है कि अफगानिस्तान एक आज़ाद खुद मुख्तार मुल्क है और इससे बाद भी आज़ाद और ख़ुद मुख्तार होता है। अगर ममालिक चाहिए कि हमारे साथ ताल्लुकात चाहिए तो डिप्लोमेटिक मिशन में आ सकता है, तो इक़्तिसादी मिशन में आ सकता है, लेकिन मिलिट्री के यूनिफॉर्म में हमको कबूल नहीं है।
So it's a very strong, clear statement. And now let's get to, in a way, the geostrategic dimension, the realpolitik that made us engage or re-engage with Afghanistan, even with the Taliban there. General Sharma, I'll start with you. You also were there at the Vivekanand Foundation when Muttaqi spoke and he invoked Rabindranath Tagore. Before we come to Bagram, can you please tell me why he was talking about Rabindranath Tagore? We tried to look for the speech, but we couldn't find it.
So he actually came about Dr. Rabindranath Tagore and he referred to his reference of Afghanistan times. In one of his poems that he had mentioned about on Afghanistan, and he referred to that. That means he came prepared. The question is that he came prepared with Dr. Rabindranath Tagore, and he came and referred to him in that sense. And not only that. See, the whole speech per se, what he spoke there, was building a bridge, a relationship of a different kind with India. So while one issue as you refer to, I refer to the entire speech he said, and also the press conference he gave. It is perfectly relational in nature, and I don't think in that matter, though of course Pakistan got referred often in his talk, his discussions, but it is not, he's not mindful of Pakistan what is doing or not doing. He's mindful of relationship. See, even now in many ways we say there are 3.2 million Pathans settled in India, and many of them don't speak Dari or they don't speak Pashto, but they are actually of that origin. Many of us, you had General Malik yesterday on the set, The fact is that many of us who parentage hails from that region, on the western. So, to say that there is a relationship with Afghanistan, relationship is in food, in culture, in dress, you name it, it is there. And I think we take the positives of this visit in that manner in which what he has spoken, and the kind of reception that you showed very nicely. What
the Deoband? I want to talk
Deoband.
a little bit about Deoband. These are the images from Pakistan today as the march proceeds towards Islamabad by the TLP, where 11 workers of the TLP have been killed in clashes with the Punjab police. But look at this sort of rock star reception at Deoband. I find in this, and I was debating this with friends. I don't know what all of you say, Ambassador Sikri. I have a friend and colleague who said this is dangerous politics because the Deoband is very conservative, it's very orthodox. But I saw it differently. I saw in these images a complete cock a snook to Pakistan on the two-nation theory. The fact that Indian Muslims in the thousands falling over themselves to actually welcome the Afghan foreign minister, who is, as General Sharma says, seems genuinely happy. He's now going to be meeting the Taj Mahal. It actually totally challenges Pakistan's assumption about or rhetoric on Muslims in India, Muslims as a basis for nationhood. I mean, there's so much power actually in the strategic flex of these images. Ambassador Sikri and then Padma on this. Yeah. Could we unmute Ambassador Sikri, please?
Yes, absolutely right. I have just to complete the reference of Foreign Minister Mutaki to Rabindranath Tagore. He was referring to the film Kabuliwala, which has been an all-time favorite. And this is based on a story written by Rabindranath Tagore in 1892. It's a short story. It was made into a film, and it is very, very popular, and it touches the heart because it is about the people from Afghanistan who used to come to trade with India. Some of them brought carpet, some of them brought fruit, some of them brought dry fruit, and they would come in a seasonal way. And this story is based in Kolkata about a person who came to sell fruit, and then his friendship with a young little innocent Bengali girl who admires him, and he remembers his own daughter who is back in Kabul. It's a very touching story. So that was one thing. But you're absolutely right about the geoflex. You're absolutely right about the geopolitical significance of Foreign Minister Mutaki's visit. I think first and foremost is a very important aspect to look at, that China has shown a lot of interest in Afghanistan, and China is getting as much commitment as they can from Afghanistan that we want to exploit your resources, we want to do this copper mining, we want to do rare earths, etc. Now, Foreign Minister Mutaki and the government of Afghanistan accepting this visit to India and making this breakthrough with India is an important indication that Afghanistan is looking at equally good relations with India as well. So in addition to the message to Pakistan, I would also try to point out the message to China, which is a significant one. And with Pakistan, certainly the message is the shared views of India and Afghanistan on counterterrorism. That we will not allow terrorist acts to take place on our soil, and we will not allow our friends to be attacked using anything based in Afghanistan. So this message to Pakistan is very important at a time when Pakistan is trying to embed itself simultaneously with China and the USA, and I think tying itself up in knots on this, because when you mentioned this, the Gaza peace plan, and immediately Shahbaz Sharif and Asim Munir had welcomed the Gaza peace plan, but by the time they came back to
they were backpedaling. Yeah,
rapidly rewinding, and we were not shown the final draft, and we don't know what we said.
Correct.
They have really tied themselves up in knots, and I don't know how they're going to untangle or disentangle themselves from these knots, and it's not going to be easy. So the attacks, internal attacks by their own groups continues, the Baluchi rebels, etc. So at this moment, Foreign Minister Mutaki coming to India, the kind of reception he's got, even in Deoband, that's really another, as you're quite rightly said, it's a big to Pakistan as well. So I think we have to focus on the significance of the visit, because it is clear that they want to continue this friendship with India. All the stalled projects, the development aid, the political signaling, the political significance, the strategic signaling from this visit. These are what we have to take away, and we have to carry on with this messaging in the further development, in the implementation of what they have agreed upon with our government.
So Padma, before I give General Sharma the closing word, I think Ambassador Sikri makes a very interesting point about China, because we have prior to this, seen images of trilateral meets between Pakistan, China, and the Taliban, right? We have seen those meetings there. You can see images of those meetings, and I think when she says there's also a message for China. By the way, Sergio Gore is here. He has met with Foreign Minister Jaishankar today. That's Trump's envoy, or America's envoy rather, for all of India, South Asia, and Central Asia. So there's a very interesting reset of geopolitics, even in our immediate neighborhood. It is an absolutely dramatic reset.
Yeah. I don't know which you'd like me to start with. Sergio Gore, I would say he's only here on a passing visit. He's not actually come to present his credentials and all.
I know, but it's just funny that ironic that he was here today.
And I don't think it's entirely coincidental that he's here now. I think the churn in Pakistan also has a lot to do with it. Yes, I found Ambassador Sikri's remarks very interesting, but I just wanted to also point out, let's remember that Afghanistan Minister Muttaqi in his remarks yesterday made it clear that they're not inimical to Pakistan is also welcome if Pakistan cooperates over Wagah in this entire regional relationship. He made that clear several times at his press conference yesterday. But I feel, and I will say this, I've said this and I'll say this again, there is a pressing need for caution even otherwise, even if he had not said that. Because of all countries in the region, it's been Afghanistan that has remained this very volatile, very turbulent country for more than half a century. At any given point in its history, there's been no telling what tomorrow will bring, which way the tide's going to turn. So we've had, monarchy, Soviet-style communism, puppet governments, public executions, clumsy Western domination, and then sudden abandonment, and then right up to the Taliban. They've seen it all. So this means that any assurances of smooth sailing for India-Afghanistan relations in future seems to be a bit of an illusion. I'm a little wary about it right now. That has nothing to do with the Taliban. It just has to do with the nature of the turbulent country that Afghanistan has been and remains. Yeah. But India is serious about entering the great game in Afghanistan. And if we are serious, India has to dig its heels in for the long haul, not just up and, go away at the first sign of the next invariable change. Now, I think that India should also be as unpredictable and as inscrutable to play that game well. For instance, this whole image as only a regional peacemaker, only a good Samaritan to provide earthquake and other aid. I think we should shed some of that, and we may have to extend our engagement beyond the Taliban, perhaps even even controversial regional groupings and regional organizations there. Yeah. And I think I, for one, have a little bit of, because there's uncertainty and there's not entirely evidence of the assurances offered by the Taliban. Yeah.
Not to cut you short, but actually I was going to give General Sharma the closing word with just an observation that this historic uncertainty or volatility of Afghanistan, it is Foreign Minister Muttaqi that reminded everybody, in particular Pakistan, that when there is a history, the British, the Americans, everybody, he said, who has tried to play games with the Afghan people have burnt their hands. That is effectively what he was trying to say. That history shows that while the Afghans have been traumatized and actually a tragedy for very long, there's also a hardiness and a resilience in their people because they've been brutalized by so much violence and conflict over the decades. So, General Sharma, I want to give you the closing word. You spoke about how years of hard work would have gone backstage into what is not just has unfolded, but it's unfolding. He's here for 8 days, and that is making its own statement. I want you to join the dots with what's happening in Pakistan. And also to Padma's point that, there has to be some caution because this is the Taliban. There is a kind of intertwining of the Taliban and Pakistan. There has been, for example, the Haqqani network that had havens. Yeah. Safe havens in Pakistan. Those border areas, we know how fluid and porous they can be. So last word to you, sir.
Barkha, very valid question, and I absolutely agree with Padma, what she said about relationships and the reset, as you mentioned. So you can't dictate that Mr. Muttaqi will not go to Pakistan in another 2 months or 3 months and something else, or the Chinese will not have a meeting in Chengdu with all the three leaders. Such thing. And there is some talks on Kabul River already. Issues about CPEC being extended, CPEC 2.0 being extended across towards Pakistan, towards Afghanistan. So there are many things happening under a plane, and we can't say that we have now created exclusive relationship with Afghanistan and it will not be there. And I also don't understand as to why President Trump is now seeking Bagram. Today, I have not understood as to what is the rationale of taking such a huge, massive base Bagram, that he wants it back here? What are there some operations being planned across into some other countries? Otherwise, you don't require a base of this kind. As it is, Americans were downscaling from the Gulf as it is, of the large number of bases that they had. So why is America now seeking Pasni?
Yeah. Did General Sharma get frozen there? Ambassador Sikri, you wanted to come in, and then Padma while he reconnects.
The port of Pasni.
Yeah. Oh, sir, we lost you briefly in the middle, but you're back now. Huh? Pasni ke bare mein aap bol rahe the. Yeah.
So I say Pasni is under offer to Americans, and Pasni is a base between Gwadar and Karachi. So something more is happening at a different plane altogether. Things are not evident as yet. So we have to play the game. We have to be on top of it. Today, it is not a minute sheet diplomacy, a noting sheet to say that we have a 5-year plan. Tomorrow morning, you don't know what's going to happen. So the diplomacy, and as security as it is, has to be so dynamic in character, because things are changing so fast. So there is no long-term reset. 15 days ago, I would have said, Americans in Bagram.
That's a very important point. That's a very important point, that you have to be constantly adapting, basically.
Yeah, so who could guess on 8th of September that Pakistan, Nepal government will go in 2 days?
Yeah.
Who could guess this? Who could know on 22nd of April this year that we would be nearly at war with Pakistan in 14 days?
Yeah.
Things are so dynamic in nature that we
absolutely
have to play ball on everything as it happens.
I 150% agree with you. I think that any other notion is an airy-fairy notion. You have to have dynamic agility for the world we're living in. All of the things you've mentioned, we could not have forecast 6 months ago. That is the point, right? Yeah. I think Ambassador Sikri, Padma, now 30 seconds each, and I'll give General Sharma closing 30 seconds as well. Padma, you first.
I just wanted to go back to the mention of China. I see a difference there between China, Pakistan, and Afghanistan vis-a-vis each other, because there is a religion factor, which is a commonality between Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India, which China, other than Xinjiang and the Uyghurs, doesn't share in the same the same extent. And also the motivation and the motive for China to be in Afghanistan seems to have much more to do with its BRI and with its Silk Road, rather than, and minerals, of course, and rare earths and all that. So it seems to be more of a commercial interest, much more than in our case or in Pakistan's case, and certainly in Pakistan's case, where there's also, as I said, a very, very strong religious factor involved.
Let me pick up one comment from our audience that I think is really smart. Saurav Vicious says, the Pakistanis, this is in response to your question, General Sharma, why does Trump want Bagram? The Pakistanis probably sold that box of minerals with Bagram as a mainstay for American troops to mine said minerals. A pipe dream, if ever there was one. But you don't know. I mean, you don't know. Trump, maybe that's what the Pakistanis sold him. But the Pakistanis are facing such backlash on their support for Trump's Gaza plan. I was saying, Ambassador Sikri, Pakistan is being tripped by TTP and TLP. Pakistan is really facing some very serious internal challenges after having a brief honeymoon period with Saudi pact and, the Trump courting. Last thoughts, Ambassador Sikri. Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know whether you saw this cartoon with Asim Munir going down the Indus River with 1 foot in 2 boats, one foot in the American boat and 1 foot in the China boat.
Correct.
Set to fall into the Indus and probably stay there. But anyway, I just wanted to make one point, that I think this is a great success for India's neighborhood first foreign policy. This is very important because if you take POJK, India is a neighbor with Afghanistan. We have a direct border with them, and this is a very important point to realize that we are going to keep very closely in touch with Afghanistan. The kinetic nature of this relationship is going to, today is kinetic all over. South Asia is such a kinetic, fluid moment of its history that every day you turn your head and something else has happened the other way, So I think that's true, but I think to say that, to focus on this aspect as well, that our neighborhood first foreign policy is alive and active and looking for, strong points and development issues wherever they present themselves. And this is certainly one of those moments where there's a shared issue, an important shared point of view between India and Afghanistan, and we have to build upon this.
Okay, I have to close, but General Sharma, to your point that, this is not a permanent reset. There's nothing permanent right now for the world we live in. I just want you to talk about what your main concerns would be in such a volatile, unpredictable, immediate neighborhood? Afghanistan, Pakistan, China, Trump.
So among many things, of course, President Trump is always a worry, but leave him away. I would say I got anxious in the kind of arrangements that Pakistan Army has now evolved between ISIS, or what is called ISKP, and LET. Now they have shifted LET towards KP, towards Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, to start fighting and start funding them to start fighting against the TTP and the Taliban on the other side of the borders. This is actually a new animal being created. ISIS, or ISKP as they used to call it, Khorasan province, is not a good organization, and you may be pumping money to start an issue against the Taliban, which may have been discussed in Delhi. I don't know about it. But to say that you have not cahoots with two nasty organizations, joined them together, and then, pump them with money and weapons, they can be problematic in the entire region, and that should be an issue of anxiety. And I'll end by one issue about rare earths. It's very demonstrative to show a box of rare earths and hand it over across to President Trump. But the fact is, America has no processing and refining arrangements of rare earths. Finally, the 90% of rare earths are refined and sorted out in China, because China established the industry. It's not a question of having rare earth. It's a question of sorting rare earths right from extraction to supply chains of supplying, which Chinese have mastered it. So they should give that box to China and not to President Trump.
Okay, very interesting. We leave it there. Please do remember that Taliban Minister Motaki is here for another several days. We've only seen 2 days of his 8-day visit. He will be at the Taj Mahal next. There's all kinds of strategic symbolism, I believe, in this visit, and also the places that he's visiting, the reception and the welcome that he's getting. And it will be very, very interesting, for lack of a better word, to see what unfolds in Pakistan in parallel. We will leave it there. Thank you so much to General Sharma, Ambassador Sikri, Padma. Always learn a lot from all three of you. Take care and have a great weekend. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.